everybody that goes to prison, they didn't learn anything in prison. They get out, they go back to their mom's house, you know what I mean? And and they're just like just chilling, not doing nothing. Mom's like, "Give me a job." You're like, "Yeah, bitch, I'm gonna get a job." You know what I mean? And they just the same in that same environment where nothing changes. So why are they going to change? They don't have any reasons to change.
And
I think a lot of them just
Why
don't
would
know
they
any better.
change if they don't have any reason to change? I mean, that makes sense. I mean, but the reason for changing is not. I don't think the reason for changing is going to be, oh well, suddenly now you taught me how to pay my bills. Now that I know how to do that, I mean, things are different.
but also Malone, the thing, like a lot of, I believe, like what you're saying about the purpose, but for people, like purpose is different for everybody, and it's hard. It's hard for everyone, like to find their purpose. That's a big thing with people in everyday life
I
who've
don't really
never
mean
gone, huh?
I wasn't really talking about purpose. I'm just talking about something that could be anything. Everybody, people are different, are good at different things. But everybody has something pretty much that they can do that that they excel at, that they enjoy, that they have a passion for. The problem is there's so many people in this world they can't get in that, or they can't see a pathway to it, or they have not discovered it yet.
I, well, there's a lot of people. Yeah, there's tons of people like that. They don't know what that is. Like I hear that all the time. They don't know what that thing is that they could that they really enjoy, and they end up being getting stuck in work that they hate.
That's not even people, just people in prison.
Right.
How many people that like they retire and they're like, "What the fuck did I just do for the last 30 years?" You know what I
Right.
mean? Because they just did it because they had a family to support, or they just did it because it was easy. And and nobody likes change.
Yeah, and for some people, like it's hard, especially like I could very easily see that some people might not have something that turns into like a really tangible skill that like is something like some for some people it might be carpentry, for some people it might be art, for some people it might be writing, but for other people it might not be something like that that's like something that they can turn into like a paid career. It might be
Yeah, I'm
like
not really talking about careers in general.
I know,
And
Well,
but like I could see a situation, like I could see an alternate version of this reality where Ben David doesn't turn into the person he was, where because he way early on gets a girl knocked up, and then he ends up being like having to deal with a kid, and then that becomes his full time life. And if he had the skills and everything to take care of the baby and focus all of his time on a baby or something like that, and just dealing with babies all the time, that might be something because that he could focus on instead of him focusing on himself. Because some people that might not be their thing. You see what I'm
I,
saying?
I'm not really sure he's a good example of what we're talking about at all.
Might
Because
well
he's
might he might not be, but yeah,
a category of someone who has simply has a mental illness.
that's true too.
He needs a completely different kind of help. Prison certainly is not the path. It will do nothing for that guy.
No.
no, absolutely not. But and on the same token, he doesn't care.
Well, that's part of the mental illness. We're not. I mean, I don't want to pick on the guy because I really do believe. I mean, the contact I've had with him, or I don't think he's. I don't think he's culpable for his behavior.
He that's
What?
yeah, it's 100% a compulsion. Like he will be the first one to tell you that it's a compulsion on
Not a
his part.
compulsion, culpable. That he's not. He's not the one to blame. He has an illness.
Yeah.
I seriously believe that he has an illness. That it should be. He should be treated as someone who is dealing with an illness.
I don't know if I buy into that.
Oh, well then, go and buy you a private prison, Mister Deputy Law Dog.
That's such a fucking cop out, though.
It's
I
not a
can't
cop
help
out,
it.
man. That guy is the real deal, dude. I mean, there are people out there that just simply don't have the there is something wrong that needs to get fixed, or they need to treatment or something. And if he isn't in that category, well, I'm not really sure who is. And I know everybody hates that because everybody wants. I mean, that's kind of the mentality though that uh, uh, we're combating is the mentality that you know if something happens, well, then somebody needs to go to prison. Matter of fact, more than likely, one or two people need to go to prison. If no accident should go without someone being punished or some kind of that type of thing. For some reason, people just feel very very satisfied with the idea of people being punished for severely.
Well, I mean, it's not black and white, obviously, but it's like so. Like
You've seen the guy though,
right? No, but it also I know. Like I smoked cigarettes for 22 years, right?
yeah.
And I knew exactly what I was doing when I was smoking cigarettes. And sure, it may have been a habit and everything else, but I quit smoking cigarettes. I mean, it's like I smoked pot all through high school. I don't smoke pot now, but in high school, I could have, I would have told you, no, I got to have it, but it's like, so I don't, in that respect, it's, it is a choice. You know what I mean? It's like,
That was you.
I did not say it wasn't me, but I'm saying in my opinion, I think a lot of that boils down to that person is making that choice to do what they're doing, you know?
I'm not saying everybody is in the category,
Right.
but there are certainly some people who just don't have the mental capacity to not do it if their brain tells them to do it. I mean,
We'll just lock them up.
Indeed, we indeed we will.
Oh, I'm kidding. But
No,
that's
no,
the whole thing about him too, though, is he doesn't care. He knows exactly what's going to happen.
Well, that was my point about saying that prison isn't going to even help this guy. Prison is not going to get through to him. It's not going to. Literally, I think he has like a form of autism.
He was in prison and decided he wanted to get put on medium custody so he could smoke drugs.
Right. That's how and that's the thing about addiction in general, is that once you hardwire like addiction, when you've really burned it into your brain, it actually creates a shortcut so that your reward center is basically hardwired to go directly towards whatever shortcut you burn into your brain. So instead of thinking I need to do this, this, and this to be happy, it goes into I just need to get high. Like immediately. This is where like it immediately jumps
Right.
to go get high right now. And it is definitely like, yeah, people who have been using for a long time, it gets burned in, and that's what gets thought about. To get out of that, it can take, twice as long as it took to create that gateway to train them out of it, because it's so hard. And it's sad. Like, it's a hard process, but prison is not anything that trains you out of it, because you can still go to medium custody, go to wherever and get whatever you need.
Prison just perpetuates prison.
Right.
I mean, that's all it does.
Right.
I mean, how many times have we all seen people in prison that are like, you see these dudes fixing out, it's like, and he's making all these contacts with people, and the dude's like, yeah, man, get a hold of my people when you get out, man, they're going to put you on, and this, that, and the other, because, in their head, it's like they're just going to get out, and they're going to be the next Pablo Escobar, or they're going to be the next Billy the Kid, or whatever, and they're just going to go out, and they're going to go take it. They're going to get what they want. Which is a whole nother episode.
Right. That it is.
That's and the crux of it all to me, with the whole prison system and everything about it, is it's just this huge just mess that society has created over the years, and that the people in power have perpetuated and made things out to be seem so much worse than what they are, or it's always one way or the other, like Greg Abbott, you're the criminal or you're not. And if you're criminal, we're gonna lock your ass up and we're gonna keep you there. You know, I wish his wheelchair would roll off the side of the road somewhere. But anyway.
Well, yeah.
And it's just, and it's unfortunate because, people get stuck in the system, and if you're not privileged, or if you're not, you don't have the means, then you're screwed. And if you're black or brown, you're automatically considered guilty. And even in the regular system, you're guilty until proven innocent. All that innocent until proven guilty is bullshit,
I think there's a pendulum that's swinging in the way of what you're thinking, because so many judges and there's DAs out there now, and they're actually bringing up the fact that we're taking people that are accused of crimes and we're locking them up, and then taking poor people, and then what do? Well, you can get out of prison if you can come up with this ridiculous sum of money, and which you're poor, you don't have. Wealthy people could possibly get themselves out of prison, but a poor person has no hope. So, and then so these lawmakers they bring that up and they say, okay, well, we'll change it and we'll start making personal reconnaissance bonds or come up with some other kind of method of doing this. Then all of a sudden you start getting all these screams and cries from people out there saying, you're taking dangerous criminals and putting them back on the street. And that's the tagline that you always hear. But the tagline should be, no, they're taking your fellow citizens who've been accused of a crime and haven't been convicted of anything yet, and they're giving them the fair chance.
But what do they know? They know what the TV tells them.
They feel like people are taking advantage, or they're getting a free ride, or that's what these criminals are doing. They're getting away with stuff.
So much violations of justice come from that form of thinking that you're talking, that line of thinking right there. Because the potential that someone who committed a crime might actually walk away, if we go by the actual rules that are set forth in the law to protect innocent people from being wrongly convicted.
Right.
And that's why guys like Thomas Jefferson said things like, I would rather see 100 guilty men go free than one innocent person go to jail. The benefit of the doubt, which is, in Jewish law, is enshrined in the Torah itself, in Pirkei Avos. We're told that you always, if the doubt always goes to the accused. If you don't know, it doesn't matter if you strongly suspect, or really think he did it or anything like that. You don't know. Tie goes a runner.
I always loved that. Speaking of Jewish law and the benefit of the doubt, I always love the Talmud's laws on the test for if your wife is cheating. The utterly ridiculous test, because it's improvable. Like, there's no, at the end of the, you have to do first off, there would have to be a qualified witness there at the time, and then you have to go through this entire long, all the scenes have to be right, all the conditions have to be absolutely correct. And then even if you meet all of these conditions and everything, you basically drink a tonic, and then it's up to the rabbi to decide whether or not it works out.
It's not up to a rabbi. Where did you get that idea? The person, it straight up says that the woman's thigh is going to burst and her stomach is going to swell and she's going to die this extremely.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's not up for a rabbi to decide. If she survives the whole thing, well, then she was innocent.
Yeah, and you just live with that.
Where you're coming from, you're probably looking at it from a very unreligious aspect. You're not looking at it as if the Torah came from the Word of God and all this, and there's some kind of deeper Kabbalistic meaning of it. You're looking at it, this is the Salem witch trials, and if the woman doesn't float, well,
no, I'm looking at it actually.
Well, then she drowns and she's good.
No, I'm looking at it the polar opposite. Actually, there was so many. It was like a whole bunch of barriers to get the husband to just not worry about it, and to basically look. If she says no, then drop it. That's and even to that point, it was and if it gets if it gets too much farther, then then it's either going to either we're going to scare the wife by saying this thing is going to kill her if she drinks it and she's cheated, or you guys.
So you're trying to say that the Torah is false, is what you're saying. You are telling
No,
me
I'm
you
trying
don't
to.
believe in.
That is not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that it's a thing. I'm saying that I can the entire process of it, the logic of it, preventing that whole argument from starting, side on the side of innocence versus the side of guilt, and that's the same way that whenever that doubt comes into your mind, you have this whole big other process to go on to think about too, so that you think on innocent versus guilty. Which I know is very abstract for people who are not well studied in Talmudic law out there.
That's not in the Talmud, first and foremost. It's in the Torah.
It's in the Torah? Okay.
It's called the law of the Sotah. And it's, what I always liken this to?
Yeah.
The Maury Povich show.
Yes.
Maury Povich whenever I saw the Maury Povich show, and I saw, they bring these women in there, and there's always some guy, and sometimes it's, the woman is trying to prove it, whether the guy is the father, and sometimes it's, the guy doesn't want to be the father, and he's like swearing up and down it's not him, blah, blah, blah. But I saw this one episode where this Hispanic couple, very young Hispanic couple came in there, right? And they were very dark Hispanics. They were, they weren't light European looking Hispanics. These were very dark Mexican looking Hispanics. And they come in there, and they have had a kid with each other. The kid is like 3 years old, and he looks like Macaulay Culkin. The kid's got is white as all get out, blonde hair, blue eyes. The kid does not look like he came from either one of them. And so the guy naturally was like, man, I can imagine. When I saw it, I thought in my mind, I can imagine this guy probably has brothers and uncles, and he has to go home. And they all look at him like, so, how's that white guy's baby doing that you're raising, type of thing. And he's living this life, but he very obviously loved this woman too. He didn't want to give up on her. And she would break down and crying, explaining to him, I never cheated on you. This is your baby. It has to, she was adamant, and he's looking at her. And he wants to believe it. And you could see, it was almost to the point where, he's just about to give on it. And then you look up and look at that screen and see that baby and go, there ain't no way. It's just, the two realities aren't jiving, right?
Right.
And so Maury Povich has to come in there with his DNA test. This is the new form of the
the DNA test.
The bitter waters that bring destruction. And so if they come in there and then the man's free, he gets to leave. The woman's stuck with some baby she can't pay for. It's a horrible thing. The modern day version of this whole thing. And to tell the end of that story, at the end of it, it happened to be that guy's baby. And when at first, the woman jumped up with that whole, you see, I told you, she wanted to get that whole I told you so in. But he was so overcome with relief that was his baby. And that you could see it. He didn't even care. She could say, he jumped up and grabbed that woman and gave her the most passionate hug and that he embraced that he could possibly muster. And she just melted. It was movie worthy seeing that happen.
I can believe that.
I've heard people say talk about that law of the Sotah that you're talking about. And they'll say, because at the end of it, what you're leaving out is that if the woman is actually innocent. Well, there's a bunch of benefits that the woman gets if she doesn't die. Well, the man can never divorce her. He's got all this treatment he has to give this woman, right? And so the question comes, well, why would a woman want to stay with this guy? How is that going to benefit her? But if you saw what I saw in that Maury Povich show, you can clearly see how that brought a much stronger bond to that family than they could have had otherwise.
Which totally makes sense too.
I think that you're looking at it the wrong way.
It wouldn't be the first time. But I totally get that. Dave, what do you think?
I really don't know. I was zoned out for a second there.
That's why we have you on the show.
But
You are sharp as a tack.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going on. I mean, not everybody's Jewish people.
Hey, that's your fault. You act like that's
You're
Are
absolutely
we supposed to stop being Jewish because you're not?
Let's talk about Buddhism here for a second. I don't know. Shit.
Talk about it.
No.
You don't know anything about it. You just look like you do.
We can bust out some noble truth. Who knows?
Yes, yeah, I'm a good, loving Christian.
No, you're not.
I'm not. That's a lie.
Which Buddhists aren't supposed to lie?
I'm not supposed to drink either, and I do that.
Oh, really? You can't drink?
No, not supposed to.
Oh, my God. And here you work at a bar?
Doesn't mean I have to drink. I don't drink at work.
I mean, I work in a liquor distribution warehouse. We don't drink there.
See? I just try.
It's a little bit different.
I try and just do the next right thing. You know, and you know what's funny, Ryan? I still pick up trash.
Is that your religion?
That's awesome.
Is that what you would call your religion?
Like
just doing the next right thing?
Yesterday, I was taking boxes out, and there's like trash in the parking lot, and I see the trash, and I'm just like, God damn it, right? And because I know I'm gonna go pick it up, but I don't want to, but I just pick it up and I throw it in the trash in the dumpster, and just not for any recognition, but just because it's the right thing to do, and it helps to keep me humble, and helps to keep me in the right mindset.
I like that. I take the trash out at work when everybody starts debating about it for the same purpose.
I'm usually the one who takes the trash out here too. So
I don't believe that for a second.
I take the trash out of my house too. Of course, my dog will just eat it if I don't.
That is so. There we go. Good takeaway. If you want to keep yourself on a moral mid-level, definitely taking out the trash is a good way to go.
I do like that. That's I guess you can kind of qualify that as a mitzvah. Is that a laugh? Were you scoffing at that?
No, I was burping because I'm a mensch.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure there's a mitzvah in there about doing stuff for the community, where taking out the trash can definitely fall under.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a very good way to keep humble, that's for sure. Let me tell you.
Oh yeah.
Well, any closing thoughts that you guys have for this episode?
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, drink Topo Chico.
You know, this was kind of a little bit of a. I'm not really sure how to size up this episode. I'm not totally satisfied with it. I don't feel like we really got anywhere.
I bought 2 glass eyes today for $18.
Nice.
You do have a glass eye. Do they
on eBay?
Are they do they glow red or something? I mean,
I'll tell you when I get them.
You don't know if they do?
No, I'm thinking about buying a 3D printer so I can print eyes.
Oh, that would be
That'd
cool.
be awesome.
I'll have a whole collection then.
I don't know why you haven't done this before. I remember mentioning this to you before about getting like cat eyes and all that type of stuff. All the cool stuff you can do with your eyes and with having a glass eye.
Malone,
you shot it all down.
I don't know if you know this, sir, but I just started listening. And so I have this really thick skull. And the things you said to me years ago are just now sinking into my brain where I'm actually registering.
Well, I hope you know that I am so OCD that I relive every single moment and every word we've ever spoken. And I cry myself to sleep every night because you didn't listen to anything.
Thank God. I live for that.
Well, just so you know, audience at home, this was recorded or at least my portion was recorded at Longmont Public Media, which may, in fact, be merging with Tinkermill, that has a bunch of 3D printers that Dave could use if he decides to come up here and get a membership. And there's also a giant laser that they have there as well, and welding tools and carpentry tools and all sorts of stuff there too.
Don't tell me.
The Shakedown was produced at Longmont Public Media. And our theme song, Shakedown, was brought to you by Envato Elements. If you want any Shakedown merchandise, or you want to support the show, you can go to waywardpress.com wayword.com. That's wayword press.com.